Hi y'all, can I make a very exciting announcement? Thanks to all of you who watch Budget Eats fanatically, we have been nominated for one of the best food videos on the internet. If you want to make us win this award, you gotta vote. The link is in the description box and we would love it if you would. Thank you so much in advance. I love you all. Y'all, it's Monday. Happy Monday and welcome to another episode of Budget Eats. I don't know if you saw our last episode of $20 Budget Eats where I thought because I was getting 20% less budget, I would be making less food, and I was very wrong. I thought on $20 I wouldn't be making 9 meals plus 2 snacks, but I did. Do you think next time we should go down to 15? So today, we're gonna be decreasing that budget even further. This Budget Eats is $15. I'm very excited because I got a block of cheddar, and I love cheese, y'all. As usual, I went shopping around in my neighborhood finding the best deals, and I did find quite a few dollar items, and I'm very happy with them. And yes, for those of you who are wondering, where does she shop to get these deals? I live in Woodside, bordering Jackson Heights. If you take a gander around the neighborhood, there are a lot of deals waiting to be found. So I recommend that if you have the time, take a look, take a walk, and just grab up all those deals. I know it's not very realistic to ask everyone to spend this much time looking for deals, but for me, shopping for food is truly one of the greatest joys I have now in life. And without further ado, let's take a look at what I found this week. For our haul, we got that cheddar for $1.88. We got some pinto beans, we got some black beans, we got 2 carrots, a jar of marinara, we got 1 bag of white hominy, it's a little bit crushed, we got some onions, we got a huge bag of russet potatoes. Aaron hates potatoes, I can't wait to feed him potatoes. We got 1 bag of baby eggplants for $1. This is when our dollar begins. We got cauliflower for $1. We got 3 beets with beet tops for $1. We got 3 small avocados for $1. And yes, guys, I know, I bought cheap avocados before. I guess you really do get what you pay for. And they turned out to be horrible. And yes, I'm doing it again because I never learned from my mistakes. We have 1 bag of not so great looking string beans for $1, as well as 1 huge bag of red radishes for $1. These I will probably need to take a look at today and probably cook off some of them because they don't look so hot. Still though, not bad for $15.06, baby. And yes, I recognize I am truly #blessed to have these prices and produce available to me, near me, but your mileage may vary and you just gotta make do with what you have. I know a lot of you guys were like, why is she eating spleen? Why is she eating chicken hearts? Why can't she just eat normal things? So this time, I hope you're happy. We're eating normal things, whatever that means. I'm also just gonna say, if you haven't tried spleen or chicken hearts, you owe it to yourself to experiment. You're only here for 1 lifetime. Eat all the things. I'm thinking in terms of prep for today, we're going to rinse off all of our beans and then we're going to dry them. I'm going to soak some of them and I'm going to dry some of them so that we can grind them into flour tomorrow. That's right, bean flour. This is a great time to sort through your beans, to take a look, maybe pick out some that don't look so hot and that you don't want to be in your batch anymore. I'm gonna spread them out on a sheet tray covered with paper towels. I'm going to even them out so that they're in a single layer, and then we'll just wait for them to dry overnight before we turn it into flour. With the remaining half, we will go ahead and soak these overnight so that we can boil them off tomorrow for some good mushy food. When I'm soaking beans, I really like to put in some baking soda just to help it soften up a little bit more so that the beans get more tender when we cook it. I know some of you are like, June, what's the point in soaking this few beans? And I'm like, guys, I don't know. I don't know. I also want to sort through some of these produce just to make sure that we get rid of the really bad ones so that they're not affecting the rest of the batch that is slightly more perky. As I'm rinsing them, if you see any that are blackened, they're too transparent, or they're just plain mushy, go ahead and give a safe trim away from those bad spots. If you see that a lot of the bean is not good, throw that one away. We want to be safe rather than sorry. Even if your bean looks pretty healthy and robust, I still like to trim away the ends of them just because they're sometimes pretty fibrous. Some of these radishes look pretty nice, some of them don't look so hot, so I'll be peeling away with a vegetable peeler all of these blemishes until I can see that the flesh is completely creamy, white, smooth, and not rotting. Alternatively, if you think the blemish goes really deep, toss the entire radish out. You'll find that older radishes will sometimes have a give. That's because they're a little bit dried out on the inside. Still good to eat, but the texture is not very pleasing, so I'm gonna be putting these and the less desirable radishes into a separate bowl and the better ones into a plastic container for longer storage. It's time to grind some hominy. I love grinding my own grains because it's always so nice and warm. It's very lovely to hug, just like snow. So I ground two different kinds. One is finer and one is a little bit coarser, more close to the texture of polenta, I would say, and this one is more close to the texture of fine cornmeal. And we still have a little bit of whole hominy. I'm going to be treating the whole hominy kind of like I'm treating the beans. I'm going to put it in a jar, I'm going to cover it with cold water, and I'm going to let it rehydrate overnight so that it's ready for whatever use we want to put it into. Alright guys, I think for meal number one, we're going to go simple. Let's go make some Hasselback russet potatoes, baked, crispy on top, creamy in the middle. Those string beans are begging to be cooked, so I think I'm just gonna toss them in a little bit of olive oil and some condiments and spices, and we'll roast them in at the same time as the potatoes are going so that we can be baking stuff together so that the oven heat is not wasted. I'm gonna be preheating my oven to 425. I think while the oven is preheating, I'm gonna leave my rinsed beans in there so that they can take that preheat heat and just like dry off faster. To make our Hasselback potatoes, I'm gonna put my hair up and then we're gonna rinse the potatoes very carefully, scrub them really clean because I wanna keep the skin on, and then I'm gonna use two chopsticks to help me guide myself so that I don't slice all the way through on the potatoes. I wanna make sure that the potatoes are thinly sliced but not completely decapitated. I don't really have any advice for you except to go slow, go measured, and try to go straight up and down instead of at an angle, because that way you'll end up slicing some slices off. It'll still be delicious, it just won't look picture perfect. But at the end of the day, who is? Towards the end, I like to hold the two ends, make sure you're using a very sharp knife, and just slice through the last few fans. Don't do this if you don't have a sharp knife. You will end up slicing your finger, and I don't want that to happen. So we got some fanning up top, all evenly sliced, and then it's fully intact on the bottom. Once I have them sliced, I'm gonna put them on a sheet tray. We're gonna brush them with a little bit of olive oil. We're gonna season them very, very simply. Salt, pepper, whatever you got. I'm starting to smell the beans toast, which means they are over drying, so let's pull them. And then we're gonna roast them for half an hour at 425. In that time, the little kind of slices will separate out into leaves and they'll start getting crispy. So our beans definitely got a little toasty, but you know, oh no, don't do that. They are certainly dry though. I'm gonna transfer our toasted beans to another container while they cool off so I can use that sheet pan for our string beans. At 30 minutes in, we'll take them out, we'll brush them again. When you take out your potatoes to turn them, whoop, you can try to gently splay them out a little bit to separate the slices and encourage the fanning out. But if you're not careful, you will break them, just like I did. We'll put them back in, for maybe 30 more minutes until the tops are completely crispy golden, like the most perfect kettle potato chip. And then we're gonna put some little cheddar on there. Cheddar on everything. Oh my God, I'm so excited for cheddar. I'm gonna be adding a little bit of sliced onions to our string beans. I'm going to add in olive oil, soy sauce, a little bit of black and white pepper, smoked paprika, some cumin seeds, as well as some red pepper flakes. That's it. Now, if I weren't super lazy today, I would separate this mixture onto 2 sheet trays. That way they get evenly crispy, they get nice and crunchy on the edges, and they don't get soggy. But I don't want to wash another tray today, and so I'm just gonna roast it on one tray, and we'll cry about it later. While the potatoes and the string beans are baking, I'm also super excited to see just how bad these 3-for-1 avocados are. So I'm gonna crack the softest one open. We're gonna scoop it out. Oh my God. It's usable. We're gonna go in here with a little bit of vinegar, a little bit of salt, pepper, as well as garlic powder. We're gonna give this a little taste. Go me. "40 minutes of string bean bake, and we got some wrinkly but golden boys." I think you knew this was coming, guys. New and improved. If you asked me to tell you what MSG brings to the table, I would say unity and perfection. And then you eat it together with this perfectly deeply golden crunchy onion. They're like freaking toasty onion chips. Just the right amount of cancer. Once the cheddar is stuck into our sliced potato pieces, we're going to put them back into the oven until the cheddar gets nice and toasty. Now that our beans are fully cool, I'm thinking we can grind them into flour. Noise alert! Smells super beany, guys. Noise alert! I also have these really sad window herbs that are slowly dying, and I have some scallions that are falling over and also dying. So we're gonna chop some of those up and just toss them on there. Eat it. If they're gonna die anyway, they might as well die for a good cause, in my belly. Because we're just having baked potatoes essentially for this meal, I'm gonna jazz up our green beans a little bit, and I'm just gonna microwave a little tiny bit of this marinara so that we can dip our green beans into it, you know, for a little extra tang. To make it slightly fancier, we got some nice flaky sea salt.
June, these are beautiful.
Do you want me to introduce to you what we have?
Hasselback potatoes, green beans, and a ketchup hot sauce mix.
It's just a marinara, but you're welcome to add hot sauce to it.
Okay, I like those green beans.
Okay.
I think I don't like this new camera of yours because now people can see my face. What if they don't like my face?
Well, stand off to the back.
I'll just pretend I'm taller than I actually am. Ooh, and there's a bonus. There's a little treat under here. There's secret bonus green paste.
There is secret bonus green paste.
Is that like a pesto of some sort? Or green goddess?
What do you think? Can you taste it?
It tastes like delicious green paste. Yeah, remember how yesterday when I learned you were making green beans and potatoes and I was like, ooh, green beans and potatoes. Yeah, it turns out I like them. You did good.
No way.
I like that the green beans are well seasoned. They remind me of Chinese doujiao in texture, which I like. Green beans, I think, too often mushy and just like, you know, vegetous matter. But these like actually have a good chew because you dehydrated them almost. On the potatoes, same thing. Because you so expertly sliced them so thin,
I did.
they have a ton of surface area, which means they're very crispy.
Can you taste the cheddar?
I think it just makes it look a little bit more fun, which is cool.
I was a little stingy with it.
Hey, you're trying to stretch $15 over a week. It's understandable.
I don't want it to be a whole week. Guys, I need this to end sooner than a week.
Is this not another week?
We're
What are
gonna
we
see.
doing?
Just whenever $15 run out, man.
So a year from now, with your skills?
It's kind of
Oh,
like
squawk.
bastardized guac and salsa on a potato chip.
That's what these kind of are. You kind of made potato chips, but still attached to the potato.
They're like assemble your own bite by bite nachos.
This is a solid 8.1.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah.
Thanks, Chef. I'm so hungry. Aaron, did you see the bottom of this? Crispiness. Of course, no meal is complete without sriracha for Aaron. Thank you for eating.
Thank you for cooking. I'd say our jobs are about equal. Food isn't food unless somebody eats it.
It's true. So guys, normally on day ones, I take it easy. I make one meal, I go to sleep, I wake up the next day, we do it all over again, but I can't stop thinking about these radishes that really look worse for wear. I really think we need to do something with this today. They look so gnarly. I mean, it tastes like a radish still. It's just very pillowy in the middle. One thing that I really don't like about radish is sometimes it's just a little too spicy and then it's very farty. But if there's any form of radish anything that I love more than anything else, it's radish cakes that you get at dim sum. It's basically like a rice slurry steamed cake with lots of grated radish and like tiny bits of meats and shrimp and aromatics in there. And then after it's steamed, you cut into pieces and then you pan sear and it's like golden on the outside, crispy on the edges, and then you dip it in these little sauces and it's just like, you know? So I was thinking with our less than desirable looking radishes, we could just grate them up and then make them into some sort of a radish cake thing that we can set overnight and then pan sear tomorrow first thing. And the only issue is I don't really have rice flour. But I do have another starchy thing, which is potatoes. So let's boil some potatoes. I'm gonna go ahead, take 2 large russets. I'm going to wash them, I'm gonna peel them. I think we'll save the peel, you know me. And then we're gonna cube up those potatoes and we're gonna throw them in a pot of boiling, slightly salted, peppered water. We're gonna let that potato go until it's nice and creamy and tender and easily mashable by your hand. And then we're gonna reserve all the starchy water for later uses. Don't throw anything out here, do we? We're gonna clip some more of our window scallions that are looking really sad and limpy and bent over like me. And then we're gonna dice them up and we're gonna throw them into a pot with some oil, some red pepper flakes. We're gonna let that oil go until it's nice and orangey, and then we're gonna toss in half of a minced onion and we're gonna let that onion caramelize until it's almost like crispy golden. Instead of my normal low sodium soy sauce that I use, I'm gonna go ahead and use this thick boy. It's very aged, it's more syrupy, and it has a more funky flavor. Oyster sauce, it adds a little bit of like seafoody saltiness, a little bit sweetness, but mostly because it already has MSG in it. A little bit of black pepper, a little bit of white pepper. I'm gonna stir it all together until it's nice and happy. And then we're going to go into our Vitamix with our radish, half of a carrot, and we're gonna blitz that until everything is like pebbly. Ooh, farty. We love machines until they overtake us. Then we're gonna toss that entire radish and carrot mixture into our pot and we're going to stir until it's nice and caramelized. Definitely don't try to handle it when it's right out of the pot, but you can see it's super mushy and ready. That was about 15 minutes. I had it at a rolling boil, so there's basically no water left at all in this pot, which is perfect, because this means we can mash right in here. We'll fold it into our radish mixture. We'll let that combine until everything's nice and creamy and happy together. Beat the potatoes more than you think you ought to, just in the event that it can make it slightly more gummy, which we want in this case. At this point, I've turned the heat off and I'm just going to keep beating this mashed potato radish mixture until the texture just feels too tough to continue, until it feels like my arm's about to fall off, and then I think we'll be done. At this point, it kind of just looks like mashed potato. Really tasty mashed potato. I'm mainly worried that when I steam it, it'll just be steamed mashed potatoes and not really a radish cakey thing. So we're gonna add in some bean flour and some hominy flour. But I want something that's a little bit like, that. Because the steaming process will add more moisture, I want this to be a little bit denser than I think I want it now. Going in with 2 more tablespoons of hominy flour. And I would say this feels about right to me. It's holding shape, but it's not a solid ball. We're going to brush our cake pan with a little bit of olive oil, and then we're going to put in our radish cake batter into this cake pan. I'm gonna wash out the pan. Gonna make sure we get all of the edges so that nothing is sticky. We're gonna pat our cake evenly into this cake pan. I'm gonna use whatever oil's left over on my brush and just brush it on top of the cake. Waste not, want not. Once your water comes up to a boil, your plate will start protesting because it's not a steamer and you're making it be a steamer. And at this point, we're gonna clamp a lid on it and it's gonna be happy for maybe about 25-30 minutes in there. I'm pretty sure this is a metaphor for our life somehow. Daylight is pretty much gone now. It's almost 6 p.m., but there's still one last thing I wanna do for our very first day because I think it's just gonna jazz up our next few days, you know? So we're gonna make some beet pickled radish and onions. Beets are definitely not my first choice of veggies to eat, but they are my #1 choice of veggies to cook with. Why? Because my hands become so beautifully pink after working with them and it just delights me. I choose you, Pikachu. When it comes to making quick pickles, the thinner your slices, the faster they'll pickle and absorb all of that juice and vinegar that you're putting them in. I've personally been feeling very chaotic, so I'm just gonna chop them however. And we're going to go ahead and peel this beet, chop it up. I mean, if this doesn't scream I just killed somebody, I don't know what does. For my spice mix in our vinegar solution, I'm gonna go in with caraway seeds, fennel seeds, and coriander seeds. We're gonna add in a teaspoon of salt, a little bit of ground pepper, and I'm gonna add a little bit of MSG right into our jar. On a medium-low heat, we're just gonna toast the spices until we can smell them, maybe about 1 minute. Make sure we're swishing the pan pretty frequently to make sure nothing's burning, everything's toasting evenly. As soon as I smell it, I'm gonna hit it with about a ½ cup of white vinegar. And we're gonna bring that up to a boil with about 2 teaspoons of brown sugar. Some vinegar recipes call for using water to dilute the solution, but because my jar is quite full and I'm not using a lot of vinegar to fill up the jar, I'm just going to let the juice from the vegetables dilute the vinegar solution. As soon as this is up to a boil, we're gonna throw in our beets, we're gonna turn off the heat, and we're gonna pour it over our veggies. It's not a lot of liquid, but once we clamp it with a lid, we can shake it and make sure that it gets evenly coated in the veggies, and overnight, hopefully, the moisture will increase in the jar and the vegetables will decrease in volume. All right guys, moment of truth. Let's see how our radish cake turned out. The good news is it started peeling from the sides, which is a really good sign for normal baked dessert cakes that it's done, but the center still feels very unset. My instincts are telling me to go a little bit longer, so that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna clamp the lid back on, we're gonna go for 15 minutes more, and I'll check back with you then. Oh yeah, much better. Our toothpick came out clean, which means this cake is done. I'm gonna let this cool at room temperature until it's like not sizzling hot anymore, and then I'll slide it into the fridge and we'll rest it overnight. Folks, welcome to Tuesday. Yes, we are gonna be eating our radish cake today for brunch, but first, eggplant parm. We have the baby eggplants, we have some marinara sauce. We don't really have like parm or white mozzarella cheese. We do have some cheddar, but we also do have some cauliflower, which I think we can turn into like a creamy sauce type layer in our eggplant parm. For eggplant parm, what I'm going to do is wash all of my eggplants. I'm going to slice them about maybe ½ an inch thick. As always, because my eggplants are not in tip-top shape, I will be trimming away the bad spots as I go. And then I'm going to sprinkle them with a little bit of salt. This will draw out the water, it will make the eggplants a little bit less astringent, and then we're going to let them just sit for a couple of hours. When it comes to working with cauliflower, I always like to save the leaves. I like to trim them off, give them an extra rinse, because sometimes near the stalk where the leaves meet, there's a lot of grit trapped in there. So you want to make sure that you're washing all of that off. For my cauliflower, I'm going to trim off the large florets, reserve them. I'm going to chop up the stems. Now the stem / core is totally edible, and when you cook it long enough, it turns super creamy, but do note that it has stronger flavor than the florets. And I'm going to measure out about 3 cups worth of cauliflower for our sauce. Just know that the finer your dice, the quicker they'll cook. For my cauliflower cream, I'm going to use these spices. A little bit of black pepper, garlic powder, white pepper, coriander, Italian seasoning. Then we're gonna go in with some water, just enough to cover over the cauliflower. Bring it up to a medium heat. To add salt, I'm gonna use the steak seasoning. This way we can add flavor along with the salt. And obviously this stuff. To prep our cauli leaves for another use, I like to take these big fibrous boys, cut away any random bad parts, and then slice them down the middle and slice them really thin crosswise so that we get tiny little bites and they're not too fibrous later on. For these more tender leaves, you can just slice them as you wish. They're pretty tender. For our cauliflower, we're basically gonna cook it until the water is mostly disappeared. Then we will blend it until smooth. At about ½ hour in, you can start to see that the water is starting to bead up top. That's the salt doing its job, drawing that moisture out. There has been enough moisture leaking out that our paper towels are completely soaked. I'm gonna go ahead and flip them again and just very, very lightly salt the other side again. It's been an hour, so I'm just gonna start dabbing the tops of these eggplants as the water draws it out. Now let's cook off some radish cakes, shall we? For our radish cakes, I'm just going to flip the cake out from the pan. We're going to cut it into thin slices and we're gonna sear it. Then I think we're gonna make some condiments for it. Texture is a little bit denser than I wish for, but I guess we should have put some baking powder in there or something. Or, you know, just maybe used rice flour. It's nice. It's spiced and spicy. Mushroom. What? Oh my god. This tastes like a savory, spicy version of red bean paste. Very disorienting, but I think I like it. To really get the radish cakes nice and crispy, I'm going to toss them in a little bit of cornstarch before they hit that hot skillet with oil. To serve with our radish cakes, I'm gonna have some hoisin sauce. I'm also going to be making a sriracha mayo with the last of my Kewpie mayo. Maybe use a bigger bowl than I am. definitely use a bigger bowl than I do. And I've also never done this before, but I think I'm gonna try to make some Chinese style mustard where you just basically mix equal parts mustard powder and water with a little bit of oil and spices or seasonings if you want. I think I'm gonna pop a little bit of white pepper and salt into mine. Once that's all smoothed out, I'm gonna add in a touch of oil for Aaron. I think he's gonna like this one. Ooh. Ooh. Almost feels like savory French toast sticks. Let's try it on its own. I can't really tell what it reminds me of. It's like something super savory, almost like chickeny. Like, is it a cross between a French fry and a chicken nugget? I think we're gonna have to put some ketchup on this to find out. Don't know where this came from. It's not part of the budget, guys. Oh my god. It is. Somehow I've managed to make, like if you took a chicken nugget and a French fry and you mashed them into one thing. This is what this is. Super hot. It's like so delightful. Maybe with the sriracha mayo. You're awake.
Hello.
Hi. Okay, radish cake from yesterday literally tastes like chicken nugget and French fry had a baby.
What should I dip it in first?
Okay, so ketchup, spicy, mayo, hoisin, which is sweet, and homemade Chinese style mustard with citron oil and white pepper. It's really potent.
Yeah. Yeah, this is great.
Do you like it? I love it. I love it with the ketchup. I don't know what it is, but...
Oh, that mustard just hit me. Ooh-wee.
I told you it was potent.
Yeah, I should start listening to you.
With ketchup, it tastes like I'm eating a healthier version of fast food. Do you agree?
Yeah, I do have to deduct a point for the texture because it's still just
Too mush?
a stick of mush.
But I love mush, Aaron.
I know, you can give it a 10 if you want. I would give it a 7.2.
Okay. I'm gonna give it a friggin' 9. I
Okay.
love it. Especially with the dipping sauce. Oh my god, I just ate too much mustard.
How heavy did you go on that?
Heavy enough?
All right, I'm gonna do it again in solidarity with you. I'm gonna go heavy. This is for you, June.
No, don't do that. All right, you ready for lunch?
Yeah.
All right, guys, it has now been close to 2 hours since our eggplants have been salted. I'm gonna dab off the rest of the moisture. We're gonna toss them in a little bit of cornstarch, and then we're gonna pan fry them until they're nice and golden. For a little bit of texture, I'm also gonna add into our cornstarch a little bit of our hominy flour, and then we're also gonna add in a little bit of black pepper. Because the eggplants are already salted, no need to salt at this point. If at any point you feel like your eggplants are still too juicy, you can go ahead and just squeeze them a little bit in your paper towels so that the moisture can get pushed out even more. This could be particularly helpful if you have a very loose sauce that you're gonna be baking in. This way, the moisture from the eggplants won't dilute your already pretty loose and watery sauce. I like to press the eggplants flat so that I'm making sure all of the bottom surface is making contact with the pan. You get a nice, even golden crust. While our eggplants are searing, I'm gonna go ahead and put our cooled cauliflower in our food processor and blend it until it's nice and creamy. So after pureeing our cauliflower, I found that it's very watery still. It's a little bit looser than ricotta, which makes me a little bit scared that it's gonna water down our entire bake. So I think what I'm gonna do is pour this mixture back into the cast iron, lift all of that eggplant fond that's still in there, and dehydrate it a little bit. Guys, remember when we saved those beet peels yesterday? What if we put them in now and they color the sauce pink? Probably should have put them in earlier when we were boiling the cauliflower to extract the most color, but man, it's gorgeous. Pretty. I think I'm gonna pick out the beet skins because I don't think they're very tasty. Edible, not great. Look at this beautiful color. Making sure that you have even layers of everything as much as possible so that there's no eggplant that's so sad and sauceless. We want everything to be nicely wet, moist, luxurious. What a beauty. I think by now you know as well as I do, I can't just bake one thing in the oven at a time. I must bake two. So what I think I'm gonna do is grab 3 russet potatoes, poke them with some forks, and then we're gonna throw them into the oven and just let them get nice and creamy on the inside. Because I think we're gonna make some potato nudes. So every Tuesday, Aaron goes to a place in Elmhurst, Queens called Indo-Java, and he buys a special Indonesian lunch, which is why he's not gonna be eating very much of my eggplant parm, but you know what, it's okay, because this food is delicious and I'm gonna have some of it too.
Every time I hear that June's cooking, I go out to Indo-Java to get my own food.
But what do we have here today?
I don't know.
Okay, but it looks
I'll have
delicious.
to pull up the Instagram post.
All right, well, we're gonna eat my food first.
Okay.
This is eggplant parm, but with cheddar.
How did you cut onion that then?
Magic.
But how did you actually?
With a knife.
Wow. That's impressive.
Again, this is mush food. I don't think you're gonna like it.
Mine hasn't cooled sufficiently.
But I love mush. This is so creamy. The little baby eggplants are so good. They're so tender.
Why don't we just wait a few minutes and then we both eat at the same time?
I'm hungry.
Yeah, I like this better than the taro strips today. Because the flavors are just more comforting, I think. It's basically just like, you know, vegetarian comfort food.
There's also cauliflower mash.
Oh, nice.
The slightly pink stuff is from beet peels. And then we also have a little bit of marinara in there, jarred. I didn't do anything to it.
I think this is what they ate in the 50s, gathered around the table. Talking about, yeah, you know, talking about what old Johnny did at school today and whether Timmy's joining the cheerleading squad. I don't know what they did in the 50s.
I don't know if Timmy's were there male cheerleaders in the 50s?
George W. Bush was a cheerleader.
Really?
Yes.
Today I learned. Do you have a grade for me, Chef?
My grade is 8.3.
Wow. I never expected that much out of you for a mush dish.
Well, it's comfort food and it's comforting me. And I need comfort.
I love it.
Yeah.
Are you comforted?
It's a little awkward, but yeah. Thanks.
Aaron gave this a pretty nice score and I'm pretty proud of it. I like the mushiness, I like the mashiness, I love everything about it. The marinara fits with the cauliflower. The beet flavor isn't very noticeable. If you get a little bite with a little cheddar on top, it's extra nutty. Because it's pretty cheap cheddar, it's not that noticeable of a taste, but cheese is cheese. So I just ate 2 lunches with Aaron and I'm pretty full, but I think we can still prep the next meal even if I can't eat right now. There are these German potato noodles that have these wormy-like shapes that I'm so attracted to. I don't know why, and I really want to try making them. If you know how to pronounce this dish, please let me know how to pronounce it. I am not even going to attempt to. So usually Schupfnudel need egg yolks. We don't have eggs this week, so we're just gonna use whatever we have. What I'm most excited about is to shape them into these thick little boys They're like gnocchi but with tapered ends, and I look forward to that contrast in texture. I'm hoping if we pan-sear it just right, the edges will get super crispy and toasty. And then I'm thinking we can melt some cheddar cheese right in that skillet so that we form a cheese crust on those noodles. I'm also going to chop up half a carrot and boil it in some water and salt and pepper, and I'm gonna mash it. I'm hoping that this kind of orangey color from the carrot will give it that yolkiness that we normally should get in a Schupfnudel. And you know what? While we're at it, let's just add in a little bit of beet too. Any chance I have of making my hands beet red again, I'll take. Also gonna go in with a little bit of onion powder, black pepper, white pepper, salt, and magic. We'll go in with a little bit of water and cook it until it's nice and creamy. Our potatoes are fully roasted. I'm gonna go ahead and peel them. We're gonna let that carrot mixture go until all the water has evaporated or been absorbed, and it almost looks like that shredded piece is ready to be mushed with the force of your spatula. And I know some of you are wondering, June, what are you gonna do with the potato skins? Guys, you can toss out some things, you know? You don't have to use all of them, but you can also eat them with the leftover sriracha mayo from lunch that you didn't throw out because you knew you were gonna have a snack. If you have some potato that's still attached to your skin, it's like delectable. I'm gonna add our carrot beet mixture to our potatoes, work that in, and then we're gonna go in with hominy, 1 tablespoon at a time until a dough forms. Just because we still have it, I'm gonna add some of this Chinese style mustard into our Schupfnudel, and we'll see if it makes that flavor even better. And we might as well go in with some hoisin too, huh? Okay, you saw this coming. We're gonna go in with the sriracha mayo too. We made one really weird dough. It's very mustardy, but delicious. I just really can't waste a thing, you know? I just, sometimes to my detriment. So after about 6 tablespoons of hominy flour, we have a nice, soft, bouncy dough. Doesn't stick to dampened hands. Makes a very pleasing flapping sound. We're just gonna let it rest in a bowl, slightly covered for however long it takes for me to make our greens. This way, we'll give this ball a chance to hydrate. So we have these beet greens that I want to use up. We also have our cauliflower leaves that I want to use up. I think these will make for a great braised greens to serve alongside our Schupfnudel. Is it wrong that I'm having so much joy from mispronouncing Schupfnudel? I should probably look up how to say it. Beet greens are also notorious for trapping grit and sand, so I'm gonna go ahead, cut them off from our beet root, and then we're gonna wash these thoroughly. For our greens, cast iron skillet, medium heat, a little bit of oil. I'm gonna throw in the rest of yesterday's onions, a little bit of radish. We're gonna let those get a little bit softened before we go in with our cauliflower greens and our beet greens. Once those are in, we're gonna go in with some spices. Keeping it simple, a little bit of this, a little bit of that. And then we're just gonna toss until it's all nice and tender. If ever you feel like your pan's running a little bit dry, just give it a splash of water. I saved some of these baby leaves for garnishing later because just like, how beautiful is the beet plant? We need to appreciate the beet. So to be honest with you, because I don't really like eating beets that much, I've never had beet greens. It's got a very interesting flavor. It's almost like increased salinity. It's a little bit salty on its own, even without seasoning. All right, guys, it's time to shape our Schupfnudel.
Nudeln, da sind sie.
Schupfnudel.
Gebraten in Butter mit frischer Petersilie. Schupfnudeln.
Schupfnudel. I'm gonna divide my dough into quarters and then I'm gonna work with each log at one time. We're gonna try to make those little tapered bundles of joy. We'll drop the noodles into the pot of boiling water, let them cook for about maybe 3 minutes until they float, they bloat. We fish them out, we drain them, and then we sear them. Correction, it only takes 1 minute for them to float. Why do I feel like I might have messed up? Okay guys, it doesn't taste that bad. It just kind of falls apart like textured mashed potatoes. So I think we need to put more flour in there. So to make sure our noodles don't turn into delicious mashed potatoes, I kind of like these actually. We're gonna add a little bit more hominy in. That's all the hominy that I have. It seems like a more solid dough. Maybe if you use AP, it'll hold together better than hominy because there's absolutely no gluten in here. So, all right, Schupfnudel, take 2. I'm gonna go for smaller boys this time. Maybe they're less likely to fall apart too because they're just more together. So basically what I do is take a heaping teaspoon of dough and I roll it in between my palm, right here. Your palm curves in, which means the middle of your noodle will be a little bit thicker when you go to roll it like this, and the edges of your palm are a little bit more protruding, which means it'll naturally taper off the ends of the noodles. So just use what nature gave you. I'm keeping my heat on a medium-low so that the forcefulness of a full boil doesn't hit the noodles and break them apart. Oh, much better, guys. While this dough isn't particularly sticky, be sure from time to time to scrape down your work surface because the dough will slowly become wiped on that surface and the gumminess on your board will prevent you from getting clean noodle shapings. Some of these still broke and I'm not sure why, but to be honest with you, I tasted some of this and then I tasted some of this again and I kind of like this more. It has more of that mushy potato texture, it's creamier, and this one just feels like it's lacking some soul. This one is my soulmate. This one is just a stranger that I forget. They look silky, they look smooth, they don't look bumpy or too rustic or like a mistake. Some of them broke. Tastes like a noodle. This one though, this one is who I want to spend the rest of my life with. All right guys, to finish this off, we're gonna pan sear it with a little bit of olive oil. We're gonna get it nice and toasty and then we're gonna throw some cheddar in there. Once your cheese is in, you wanna turn your heat to low. You don't want this cheese to burn, but you do want it to melt very gradually so that it can kind of sneak its way into the crevices between all of these noodles and form a little plate under them. Trying to make sure that we don't have any stray noodles. We want all of the noodles to get glued into this network of cheese. To save time and my sanity, I'm just gonna go ahead and microwave some of this marinara because I'm not gonna cook anything anymore. Nice and golden, and then when you lift it, nice and golden. I'm gonna save the rest of our dough because we definitely can't eat all of this tonight. And I'm also gonna be saving our starchy cooking water because you just never know when it comes in handy, you know? Aaron, I know you're probably not very hungry, so do you want any veggies on your plate or just cheesy goodness?
I'll take a little bit of those veggies. Those look very appetizing, very colorful, very rich.
Wow.
And I think if I'm just eating potatoes covered in cheese, it does still make me feel a little bit better to have something green next to it.
Okay. Do you like beets?
Yeah, I like them more than you. I was surprised when you got them for this week since you're a avid beet hater.
I'm not.
It looks like fries, but weird shaped fries. Are they fries?
Nope.
Are they potato noodles?
Yes.
Is this gnocchi?
Kind of.
Is it weird gnocchi?
Schupfnudel.
How? What? What?
I've loved every moment of mispronouncing this word. I'm so sorry, but it's brought me so much joy. Schupfnudel.
I like the cheesy, crispy bits. Can I just only eat those?
Yes.
Okay.
You can. That's why I made them.
I can't pick up any of them.
Can you use your hand?
No.
I don't. Why are you so adverse to using your hand?
Because I haven't washed my hand in 3 years. I think I would have been just even happier if you just like put cheddar cheese in the pan and melted it into a crisp disc.
I did.
Yeah, but then there's potatoes also.
I tried. Oh, you just want melted cheese crisp.
Yeah. Only
That's
melted
not
cheese
budget
crisp. 10
friendly.
out of 10.
Thank you. One thing about the vegetables, way better than I thought they would be. I love the different colors. I love the different textures. We got some tender greens. We got some kind of creamy cauliflower root stems. And then we got like slightly crunchy radishes. And it's all this pretty green pink color combo. I don't have any complaints.
My one complaint is it's very fennelly, which is a very strong flavor.
I do want the fennel flavor to come through. Because
Oh, it's coming through. It's here. It's loud and it's proud and it's fennel. But the Schupfnudel is great. I really like it with the marinara sauce. I see why you insisted I dump a truckload of it on yours. It reminds me of like something you would get from a local pizza joint. You know, not like a Domino's or a Little Caesars, but like, you know, one-off independent pizza place in like a hometown. And they just serve something cheesy and starchy covered in marinara sauce. And this both taste good. And it's definitely unique. So 6 trillion out of 10.
Whoa. That number does not exist. Try again.
8.6.
Thank you, sir.
I like that you're making potatoes in ways I don't hate.
That's something. That's big. As a professed potato hater, the fact that you haven't been like, ew, I hate this, is huge to me.
I finished my plate.
Thank you for eating.
Thank you for cooking.
Guys, Aaron really did finish his plate. Look at this. It's so clean. I think this is the kind of food where even if you're not hungry, you're like, yeah, let me just keep eating it because it's nice. And I need it. Nutritious. Delicious. I'm barely awake. My hair is wild. Welcome to Wacky Wednesdays. It's really bright outside and it's really cold. So I think we're gonna start our day with some soup. I've had these soaked for about 2 days now. I've kept them in the fridge so they don't turn sour. And I think it's time to cook them today. I think we're gonna make a vegetarian bastardized version of pozole. Pozole, a traditional soup or stew from Mexican cuisine, made from hominy with meat, typically pork, sometimes chicken, seasoned and garnished with shredded lettuce, cabbage, peppers, onions, garlic, radishes, avocado, salsa, or limes. Pozole can be prepared in many ways, but all variations include a base of cooked hominy in broth. So basically, we're just gonna make a hominy bean vegetable soup. So for our vegetarian pozole, I'm gonna go in a pot with some olive oil. We're going to hit that with a little bit of minced onion. We're gonna let that caramelize and throw in some garlic powder, ground cumin, ground coriander, a little bit of dried oregano, a little bit of crushed red pepper flakes, and then black pepper, salt, maybe a hint of MSG, I don't know. And we're gonna go until the onions are jammy and the herbs are bloomed. And then we're gonna go in with our beans. Make sure that as you're cooking, you're scraping the fond off of the bottom of the pot so that nothing's burning. And then we're gonna go in with our veggies. I'm thinking radishes, carrots. If your pot is as thin as mine is on the bottom, chances are the spices will begin to burn. In that case, turn off the heat, cover the bottom of the pot with your vegetables, and just let them sit there for about 3 minutes. The moisture from the vegetables will kind of press down on that fond on the bottom, and then you can scrape it up and lift it off before you turn the heat back on again. To give our soup a delightful pink color, I'm gonna go in with a little bit of beet too. Alternatively, if you don't want to wait for your fond to lift, you can just add a little bit of liquid. It'll lift right off immediately. Baking soda. On the controversial topic of do you salt your beans when you're cooking them, I'm on team obviously. I think the only instance that I wouldn't salt my beans is if I were making sweet red bean paste. For all savory applications, wouldn't you want your beans to be seasoned? As I've noted before, my preferred way of cooking beans is to bring them up to a boil for about 5 to 10 minutes max, and then I cover them, turn off the heat, and just let them sit for half an hour. Usually after that half an hour of off heat sitting, the carryover residual heat will cook the beans enough that they're creamy. It just saves, I don't know, cents off of my gas bill, I guess, but why waste the gas when you don't need to? This also gives you a more gentle cooking process so that the beans don't blow apart and just kind of start fraying and disintegrating. I also like to give that foam a skim because that will blow over, run on your counter and stovetop, and it'll be a mess. It's okay, we'll clean it up later. Aaron isn't quite awake yet, but I'm gonna plate a bowl of this up for myself. We're gonna garnish it with a little bit of our pickles from Monday, and maybe a few more slices of radish and onion. Avocado number 2 out of 3. Will it be good? Not bad, guys. I mean, I don't know what you think, but this looks pretty freaking beautiful to me. Guys, the textures in here are amazing. The beans are creamy, the hominy is chewy, but not, you know, like break your jaw chewy, more just like tender, bouncy chewy. The colors are amazing. The mouthfeel of the soup itself is so silky. It's like just the right amount of viscosity. Then you have that tart little spiced pickle that comes in with that refreshing caraway taste. Woo! Get a nice little bite with a crunchy fresh radish. Get a nice tender bite with the cooked radish. Get a nice creamy fatty bite with the avocado. Add a little nice pizzazz with your fresh raw onions. And then admire your beautiful beet green leaf before devouring. I need a refill. Guys, every single bite of this soup with a different topping is like a different variation of the soup, and it's all amazingly delicious and comforting. For how simple this process was, for how low maintenance the ingredients are, I'm gonna give this soup a 9 out of 10. It's just such big payoff for such little effort. Look at how much we made. We made so much soup, guys. Aaron is awake. Let's feed him.
Did you pickle these radishes yourself?
I did.
Nice.
Aren't they beautiful? Do you like it?
Mm-hmm.
I love the variety of stuff.
Yeah, there's a lot
bowl.
going on here. Mm-hmm. Do you want me to give you a better rating or a worse rating?
Why do I have to choose?
Because that depends on how much chili I put on this right now.
Oh, well, give me the straight. Give me the straight.
Okay. Bean soup with beans. It's really beany. It's so many beans.
Just give me a freaking number.
I would give you a nice grading.
You know that's hominy. That's not just beans. There's corn bits in there too.
Ooh, and corn.
Bean and corn soup.
Bean and corn. I would give you a nice grade. 6.9.
Did you calculate that with your shirt?
It's just a coincidence.
Canceled. Cancel him.
Yeah, so the reason I gave it 6.9 is because it's bean soup. It tastes fine. It tastes normal. But I'm just kind of used to flavors from you being a bit more inventive, a bit more experimental, a bit more bold. And this is, I think, more a straight down the line bean soup. And, it's just, I'm used to June being like very creative and expressive in her cooking. Not just like bean soup.
Have I not told you to keep your expectations low?
My expectations are based on your past performance.
Well, the pains of being an overachiever.
Mm-hmm. So
you just drive yourself to impossible standards.
Yeah.
Guys, don't do this to yourself. How does burgers and fries sound to you? All right, so for our burgers, for the buns, I'm thinking we take our remaining baby eggplant and we slice them about maybe 3/4 of an inch thick. Okay, maybe more like 1/2 inch thick. We slice off the ends so that they're nice and flat. We salt them on both sides and we let them drain for about 1/2 hour or so. We don't want these completely dehydrated like we did with the eggplant parm. We just want them slightly more tender on the inside and not so astringent tasting. With the ends that I trim off, I'm just gonna dice them up and throw them into our stir fry as well for the filling. For our patties, to make them a little bit more flavorful, I think I'm gonna go in a pot with some olive oil and then I'm gonna throw in a bunch of veggies in there. Thinking maybe some beets, potatoes, carrots, radishes, all cubed up, a little bit of onions, a little bit of cauliflower, let them get nice and toasty and slightly caramelized. And while they're warm, I'm gonna throw in some steak seasoning just to flavor it, a little bit more of black pepper, and some red pepper, nice tasty for a little bit of a kick. If your kitchen is getting smoky like mine, you're doing something right. I want a little bit of smoky flavor infused into the veggies so that we can kind of mimic that grill burger taste. Once you start seeing that fond develop on the bottom of the pan, about 6 minutes in, turn off your heat, and we're just gonna let the veggies coat over that fond. We're gonna lift that fond off and we're gonna let the veggies cool and we're gonna food process it. If you see that your eggplants are sweating, give them a flip, let that moisture soak into the paper towels, and onwards we go. And you can't really have a burger without fries. So we're gonna cut 2 of these babies up. We're gonna roast them at 375 like shoestring fries. To flavor our fries, keeping it simple, a little bit of this Mediterranean citrus blend with a little bit more black pepper for a little hit of spice. And we'll go in with a little bit of smoked paprika on those fries to give it The number 1 rule to roasting anything, if you want it crispy and crunchy, is to take your time and spread them out. I also like to put the chunky boys on the edges of the sheet pan. The edges of the sheet pan will get heat a lot hotter than the middle of the sheet pan, so you can play your pieces accordingly. And you know me, because I have the oven on, I have to roast something else. It's like a compulsion at this point now, but we're gonna go in with some cauliflower and our remaining beet, and we're just gonna let these roast until they're nice and golden and save them from another use. We're also gonna toss in these potato peels that I saved and just cook them along with our fries. Probably gonna pull them a little bit early because they will cook much faster. Potato peels can go into the same oiled bowl. No need to add more oil. Just make sure you soak up all that you left behind when you were tossing the fries. Halfway through the bake, we give everyone a flip so that they're nicely golden all around. We're gonna fold it in our black beans. We're gonna try to mush them a little bit. So we're gonna just try to work it in with our hands and mush it halfway. And then we're gonna set it in the fridge to chill while we work on our buns. All right, patty time. If you accidentally pour too much oil into your pan because you only want a very thin layer, just pour it off into a small bowl. We'll use it on the next round. Once the eggplants are in, I like to give them a nice little squish. Make sure it's making full contact with the pan for a nicely golden, even, toasted bun. What you're looking for is a bright, bright purple color surrounded by this kind of like auburn brown goldenness. You want the middle of the eggplant to be soft and tender, and you want it to be pretty bendy. Once it's cooked, it should start looking translucent on the inside, but it's totally okay if it's not on both sides. We don't want this to fall apart into mush. It should feel fairly soft, and you shouldn't feel that much resistance, but it should still be quite firm and not completely mush. Depending on how even you sliced your pieces, some may take longer than others. Here are our buns. Our fries are out, they are golden, they are glorious, and now they're just gonna go downhill, so I'm gonna taste one while they're fresh. Oh, hell yeah. Get a crispy one.
These are awesome, June. Good stuff.
Do we need burgers when we have fries? Hard to say. And do you need fries when you have potato skins? Oh my god. Also hard to say. Guys, look at the bubble on this one. Because everything is already cooked, I'm gonna go at a medium heat and we're just looking for a sear. When shaping balls of dough or patties or whatever, damp hands are your best friend. They will give you a slightly non-stick surface. And if we're gonna have burgers, we're gonna have cheese, guys. To be our most extra selves, I'm just gonna make some little cheese crackers in the in-between spaces on our pan. Cooking off some cheese on your cast iron skillet is also a great way to help you gauge how hot your bottom pan is. That way, if you see your cheese burning, your patties probably are burning too. I found some more mysterious packets of ketchup in my fridge and I'm so excited. I also found this guac spread that we made on Monday.
Sure.
And I'm gonna be spreading these onto our cheeseburgers because why not? To encourage our cheese to melt, I'm gonna go ahead and just trap a little bit of the steam. Ooh, I think I made the patties too big. I've outdone myself. I truly have. My goodness. I'm so proud of myself. The fries are a little limpy now, but we knew they tasted good once upon a time. I made way too many patties. I miscalculated how many pieces of eggplant I had. So I have two that don't have top buns, but you know what? That's okay, because this one has a cheese crown as a top bun. Guys, how cute is this guy? He's so cute. One bite. Whoa! Whoa!
June, this is an amazing looking dish. You see, this is what I'm talking about. This is the inventiveness.
Show the camera.
Oh my god, look at that. And look at this beautiful cheesy goodness. Oh my god, look at 10 out of 10.
It's a one bite. It's a one biter.
Everything's so beautiful here. Where did you get the idea to use eggplant as burger bun?
I looked at them and I was like, I don't really like eggplants. And then I wanted to make burgers, but I didn't want to use potatoes as burgers. And I thought, what's something else round that I can cut? And I was like, eggplants. And they're so cute. They look like freaking miniature Krabby Patties.
Tastes great. It's a brilliant idea. One problem is I have a tiny mouth, so it's hard to eat all in one bite.
Patty is still pretty mushy, but I think it's so flavorful. You know?
Were you going for a White Castle flavor here?
I wasn't going for anything except delicious. Well, I don't know. I think this is pretty damn good, Aaron.
I stole this from the pan. The fries are my favorite thing here. The sliders are really good. They look beautiful, they taste awesome. I will deduct a little bit of pointage from the sliders for being a bit difficult to eat.
I'm just
But the whole meal,
so happy with this. I love it.
this is a 9.3.
Wow. Thank you.
Favorite meal so far this week?
I agree. I'm gonna give myself like a 10 out of 10 because I honestly shocked myself, and that almost never happens, and it's just like...
What's shocking about it?
That it worked. Surprisingly, on $15, we still have ingredients left, so I will meet you back here tomorrow morning. Rise and shine and welcome to Thursday. I looked in the fridge. We got beans. We got marinara. Let's make meatballs. And by meatballs, I mean bean balls. Last night at approximately 10:39 p.m., I suddenly remembered while sorting through my written recipes that I still had my cauliflower in the oven. That's what they look like. They're not burnt, they're just severely dehydrated. And you know, all that means is there's a lot of flavor in here. So I'm thinking for our bean balls, we're just going to blitz together a lot of our beans and veggies that are left over. We're gonna shape them into balls. We're gonna try to pan sear them, and then we're gonna serve them marinara. But you know how Aaron was like, June, I'm used to you being inventive. Well, like I was up last night and I was thinking, how can I make meatballs interesting? And I thought, well, we have a lot of bean flours. What can I do with those? What if we tried to make black bean chips, but made the chips into cups, and then the cups held marinara with our bean balls? So it'd be like bean on bean action, you know? I think it might be a miserable failure, but I'm still so excited to try. So I think for a meatball mixture, I'm gonna go into our food processor in batches and just blend up a little bit of onions, cauliflower, carrots, beets. We got some radish cake that already tastes like chicken nuggets, so we're gonna chunk some of that radish cake in and throw that in as well. I'm thinking the radish cake will be a fantastic glue to have in there. We're going to mash in our cooked pinto beans and meatballs. We gotta flavor it. So I'm gonna go in with a little bit of ground coriander, a little bit of garlic powder, a little bit of black pepper, you know, whatever hits me. Since everything is already cooked or edible raw, we can go ahead and give this a taste and see how it is in terms of seasoning before we add more. Because our patties from yesterday didn't really hold up during cooking and fell apart quite easily, I think I'm gonna add some hominy flour to this just to bind it a little bit more and give it more integrity so that it doesn't crumble to pieces when we cook it. I'm gonna cover this with a plate, we'll put it in the fridge, we'll let it set while we make our little bean cups. For our bean cups dough, I'm just going to use our black bean flour. I'm gonna drizzle in a little bit of olive oil as well as gochugaru for flavor. And then we're going to add a little bit of salt, a little MSG. And then we'll add in some water to bind it all together. And instead of using just plain water, we can use this bean liquid that we cooked our black beans in yesterday. It's probably a little bit similar to aquafaba, so it probably has some binding properties. I don't actually know. Kind of just looks like refried beans. Wonder how this tastes. It tastes like raw beans. Don't know what I was expecting. I'm gonna add in the rest of our hominy to give it more structure and a little bit of a different flavor profile. So we have a cohesive dough. It takes the shape of my hand. It doesn't really stick to my hand. I think this is great. My only gripe with it is it tastes a little like dirt. So I think we have to pump it up with a little bit more spices. To get us closer to that meatball vibe, I'm gonna go in with a little bit of Italian seasoning as well as garlic powder. You might be wondering, June, how are you making these into cups? Well guys, with this. This is a mini muffin tin loaf pan. If I flip it upside down, grease up these cups, lay a thin layer of dough over them and bake it, maybe, just maybe, we'll have black bean chip cups. In the meantime, we're gonna preheat our oven to 375 and let that get nice and toasty. So what I'm gonna do is take about a heaping teaspoon of dough, sandwich it between 2 small pieces of parchment paper, and roll it out as thin as I can while still peeling it off of the parchment. I'm gonna flip it directly onto our greased cupcake tin, and hopefully it'll just drape over. Really important to get it as thin as you can so that you don't end up with like a jaw-breaking brick of bean paste. If you don't make sure that your bean paste is released from both pieces of parchment before you do the flip, you'll have a headache and frustration and possibly tears. I'm going to brush the tops very lightly with some olive oil to encourage crisping, and then we can salt it a little bit on the top. I like to stagger them so that there's no chip touching each other and they bake separately, and this also gives them some room to bake and get toasty and evenly crispy. For the rest of my dough, I just rolled it out thin between 2 silicone mats and then peeled one off, scored them into triangular shapes, and maybe we'll just have black bean chips to eat on later. Same treatment, we're gonna brush it lightly with oil, salt it. Well, our chips look okay. We got some thicker boys that are less baked, a little bit soft on the inside, but still very dehydrated. And then we got some edge pieces that got a little bit toasty, are a little bit thinner and crunchy. Oh no, that didn't work out very well, did it? Well, they're not really cups anymore. They dried up, fell apart, and cracked and fissured horribly. There's maybe a couple that are salvageable, but for the most part, this is a fail. Can't say I'm too surprised, but I am very disappointed. They don't even taste that good. Oh no. They're not quite crispy yet, so I'm gonna throw them back in, go for maybe about another 7 or 8 minutes, and then we'll do something with them. I don't think we have to toss out my idea completely because I still have this Schupfnudel dough. And I think maybe we can try to make some cups out of these. The dough is just a little bit wet, so maybe we'll add some bean flour to this. I'm also gonna add in a little bit of olive oil just to give it more chippiness. Fat never hurt anyone, I think. Here is our dough, not sticking to my fingers, holding shape. Round 2. Truly a sad day, but you know what? They're kind of nice. I'm thinking maybe for our next batch of chips, we'll decrease the oven to 350 just so that the heat is a little bit less intense. Maybe. Should we go higher? Higher temperature will cook faster. Lower temperature will cook slower. Which one leads to more cracking? Guys, I honestly don't think it matters. There's no gluten in these. There's just... It's gonna happen. I'm just gonna leave it at 375. Why do I do anything? On the second round, I'm also opting for a bigger dough ball, meaning thicker chips, so maybe they won't crack as easily. Alright guys, for our meatballs, we're gonna shape, we're gonna sear, it's gonna be perfect, everything will be great. Cast iron skillet, medium heat, drop of oil, small meatballs so they don't crumble, and go until golden, I guess. Unlike normal meatballs, which has inherent fat from the meat, these don't, so I like to brush them with a little olive oil during the cooking process to facilitate both a clean release from the pan and also to help them crisp up and golden across all the surfaces. These are pretty fragile meatballs, so go lightly with your hand. Pretty cute, huh? They look better, I guess.
Not really. They don't really look that much better.
As for our marinara, I think I'm just gonna microwave it, guys, after all these fails. I can't. plate, I'm gonna put a cup with some sauce, with some meatballs, with some sauce. That's it. I lied. We're also gonna be putting on some little tiny pieces of avocado just for a little creaminess because these meatballs aren't actually meatballs. We'll go in with a little bit of onion as well. Guys, all in all, not bad. This is actually pretty decent, especially with that creamy guac. It's almost like salsa. Some of the cups are holding together fairly okay. It's actually kind of painful to eat this in one bite because the edges are a little bit sharp. So I like to break my cup into pieces. We're just gonna have a little bean dip. As you can see, it's pretty mushy on the inside. So it's not really at all like a meatball in texture, but with all the spices and then you add in the marinara, it kind of tastes like one. I think for sure this could have been better had I, known how to make these cups not an eating hazard, but this actually has way more of like a Mexican flavor profile than an Italian one. Not mad about it, but I am extremely mad that I just did millennial speak. Gross. Yuck. I can't wait to see what Aaron thinks of this mush fest. The black bean chip still tastes a little bit like dirt. All in all, I'm gonna give myself a 7. I think this idea is fun, but I don't think I executed that well. I don't know what is the opposite of deconstructed, but I feel like what I made here is the opposite of a deconstructed nacho because nachos are already deconstructed. So I don't know what this is. Welcome. I made some really gross lunch for you.
Gross? These look so cool.
Yeah, what do you think they are?
Like how many cups?
Kinda.
Why is it gross? Is that gross? The beet balls?
Just wasn't what I wanted, but
Okay.
let me serve ya. Cheers.
Are you eating out of an avocado shell? That's cool.
Nature's bowls.
I'm scared.
You should be.
It's the worst thing I've ever tasted.
I told you.
No, it's fine. What are you talking about?
The shell's just a little too dry,
I don't think they're dry. They're fine. It's fine. Why are you beating yourself up?
It's what I do best. It's so mushy
You
though.
lowered my expectations sufficiently.
It was
that I
my
like
plan all along.
I think I will definitely say like the white bean one better.
I agree.
Yeah, because it holds the shape better. Mm-hmm. And it's thicker.
It is thicker.
It's good. This is a
Yay.
fun dish. Definite bonus points for originality on this one.
Yay!
This is a 8.7.
What?
Yeah, these are the kinds of dishes I like seeing best from you because it best showcases your artistry and your originality.
My artistry. My originality. Alright guys, I think it's time to do our final meal. Let's take a look at everything that we have left in the fridge. 1 cup of marinara, half an onion, quite a bit of pinto bean flour, a little bit of beets, some of our gorgeous pickles, beans, some of our veggie patty filling yesterday, 1 avocado, and 1 potato, plus a little bit of cheddar. We also have all of these chips that we just made, and some of our failures. Are you thinking what I'm thinking? Because I'm thinking nachos. I think I'm gonna turn our last spud into potato chips, and then we'll add it with our other bean chips for the tortilla chip substitute in our nachos. As far as the nachos go, well, I think we're just gonna pile everything on. The only thing that I think I still wanna cook is this pinto bean flour. When I was mixing the bean chip dough earlier, I realized that if I just kept adding liquid to it and cook it, it'll basically be bean hummus. We could just make some refried beans out of this bean flour. let's roast some chips. I'm going to take our russet potato. We're gonna slice it as thin as I can go with my knife. You want as even slices as possible so that they all bake at the same time. Now, because I don't have the world's best knife skills, my potato chips won't be even at all. What I can do to compensate for that is putting the thicker slices of potato on the edges of the pan. The thinner pieces, the smaller pieces go in the middle of the pan. And if they're paper thin where you miscut and it's like half as thin as the other ones, you can even pile 2 chips on top of each other so that they don't burn. After that, we'll lay them on a sheet tray. We'll brush them with a little bit of olive oil, salt, pepper into a 375 oven. I think they're gonna take anywhere from 10 to 20 minutes. I'll just keep an eye on them. Because I love caramelized onions so much, I'm going to cut up a quarter of our remaining onion and toss it on the tray with our chips so then they can get a little bit roasted and crispy as well. Halfway through, we're going to flip these potato chips. No, we're not. We're not gonna flip these potato chips. They are sticking to the tray. We're gonna put them back in and we're gonna hope that they'll release. I'm going to be putting the remaining quarter onion into our pinto bean mash. So for that pinto bean mash, I'm gonna go into a pot with a little bit of olive oil. We're going to go ahead and throw in those onions and let them get a little bit soft, a little bit golden, and then we'll throw in our spices. Going in with a little bit of ground cumin, a little bit of smoked paprika, gochugaru for spice and fragrance, black pepper, garlic powder, and then maybe a touch more salt. Once those spices are nice and incorporated into our onions, I'm gonna go in with my pinto flour. I'm looking for the bean flour to start smelling toasted and to look like it's getting a little bit of a golden color. We don't wanna burn it, we just wanna toast it. Stir it frequently, stir it often, no burning, just toasting. And then we'll pour in our water slowly. Salt, MSG, maybe a dash of vinegar? Why use vinegar when you have this? I'm gonna go ahead and use some of our pickle vinegar to go into our pinto beans because this one has a little bit more salt and sugar in it already. Ooh, I hope you like beans because we got a lot of beans. Some of these fatter ones still haven't cooked all the way through, so I'm gonna start pulling off some of these golden ones. Set them aside. Then we're gonna throw these back in for another 5.
June, these look awesome.
You wanna try one?
Wow, I love how thin they are.
They are.
They're so crispy. Man, I love these.
I did pretty good, man. Oh, look at that.
They're beautiful. Look how thin they are. How'd you get it that thin? Is your answer just gonna be you cut it again? You just used a knife and cut it? That's amazing.
So we still have this block of cheddar, and I'm thinking instead of just assembling our nachos, putting this on top, putting it all in the oven and letting it get melty and stuff, let's just make some cheese crisps because Aaron loves cheese crisps, and to be honest, who doesn't? I'm just gonna pop these into my cast iron skillet. We're gonna go on a medium-low heat until that nice cheese disc forms, until those little holes emerge. Cooking the cheese off this way also means that I get to collect the grease from the cheese in the pan, and then we can toast up our beans in that grease. To make sure that my cheese crunchies are draining properly and getting toasty instead of just frying in their own fat, I'm holding the pan off to one side so that the oil can run off into one corner, and this can get nice and toasty. To flavor our pan-seared beans, I'm gonna go in with some taco seasoning. It has chili powder, garlic, salt, paprika, all the good stuff. To really wipe out all of our leftovers, I'm going to pan-sear the remaining vegetable patties, and then we'll just pretend it's chorizo or something, you know? All right, guys, avocado, 3 out of 3. Will we make it? Okay, I'll take it. Nice and creamy. Okay, as is tradition for our last meal, it's a assemble it yourself meal. We have some vegetarian nachos.
Cool.
We got chips, we got mock chorizo, we got cheese crunchies, onions, more onions with marinara, pickles, radish, onions, beet greens, beans, avocado. Do you not layer your nachos, my dude?
You underestimate how lazy I am.
What a beauty.
I switched plates to a more idiot-proof container.
I think this is glorious, guys.
These are such deep, rich colors here.
You have to put it right here. Not that close.
Really vibrant. Vibrant is the word for this. Just like you, June.
Not really.
It's hard for me to give an overall grade for your final, random assortment meals of the week.
Why is that?
Because it's just sort of like everything we've been eating, but just, put together in a big pile.
So how are these as far as nachos go, you think?
It's a lot of fun. I think the main thing they're missing is ooey gooey cheesiness.
I know.
This is more like a salad, I think, than nachos. Just a weird salad.
Isn't nachos basically a salad? Just like no actual vegetables?
Tortilla chip salad?
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So that's what this is. I love these cheese crunchies. I could live off these.
I just really like the choice and variety in here. It just makes me feel like I'm having fun eating.
I agree. It is a lot of fun. Because even though other than the chips and the cheese crunchies, which I really do love, nothing is individually here is like blowing me away. The whole thing is just a joy to eat. So I'll give you the most joyful grade ever. What's a joyous number?
0.
Why?
0 is my perfect favorite number because it's a full circle and it holds nothing. And it's fine holding nothing.
Okay, well, I'm not giving it a 0.
Okay.
Unless you really want me to.
I want you to give me whatever you want to give me, man.
Can you do your grade first? I feel like you're always making me go first for the grade.
Yes. I'm gonna give this a 6.
That would be among the lowest. I think the lowest anything's gotten this week.
If I'm being honest with myself, it looks great. It's fun to eat, but it's just not that tasty.
I can fix that.
I'm just not getting that luxurious feeling here, you know?
I like it. I'm giving it a 7.7.
That is a joyous number.
Hey, June.
Hey, Aaron.
$15 week. It didn't suck.
Really?
Yeah.
That means a lot. Okay, so yesterday you gave a 9.3 to our veggie sliders.
Yes.
That is hands down my favorite of the week as well.
As we're sort of decreasing in overall flavor and exciting ingredients in the budget week prices, I think we're increasing in your artistry and creativity. And that's what's
If you
really
say
shining
artistry one more time, I swear.
through. You're a artist. You are an artist in the kitchen, June. Do you guys think she's not? I mean, she obviously is. Everybody watching this right now will agree with me.
I'm a hot mess is what I am.
That's why people watch you. You're
Because
so
I'm a
creative
hot mess?
and inventive. Thanks for another fun week, June.
Thanks for eating all of my weird things.
Look forward to $5 week next week.
I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Let me know down below which dish was your favorite, and let me know if you try any of these recipes. Be my recipe tester. Let me know. Do they actually work?